This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the UK's #1 coral selling website prestigereef.co.uk and reefdork.etsy.com for all your 3D printed aquarium accessory needs. Hey, Ryan, have you finished listening to that voice message?
Yeah, I got it.
I got it. Great. Happy
I got
days.
the gist of it anyway.
Yeah, so. Good. I sent Ryan a voice message 3 seconds before this started because I was like, hang on, I just need to tell you something. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prestige Reef Dork Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the usual nonsense, but mainly aptasia, getting rid of aptasia. I got a massive aptasia outbreak now. It's pissing me off. So I'm just going to go through what I think are the main ways of dealing with aptasia and the pros and cons of every, because it's the same with everything. There are there's always a good side and a bad side of all the methods of doing it. So I'll tell you what I see as the pros and the cons, and Ryan and I will probably agree mostly, but maybe we'll disagree and fight.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're going to agree.
It's aptasia, isn't it? So
yeah.
So yeah, we'll be doing that. And there's also, for the last 3 weeks, so last week we had a guest on, so we didn't do the news. The week before that we had I messed up and the topic ended up taking 2.25 hours to get through. And what I should have done, because that was overrated corals, overrated stuff in the hobby, I should have done one live stream that was overrated corals, one that was overrated fish, and one that was overrated methods or whatever. But I didn't think we'd fill the whole thing. So we didn't do news then. So now we've got 3 weeks worth of news, and there's a ton of news. Some quite interesting. So
I look forward to it. I remember you saying something that there was news about antibiotics, but I didn't know what it was, and you didn't.
Yeah. So this is from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So excuse me. But yeah, and there's loads of news. It's good. So we'll get into it. In the meantime. Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, I'll let you start with your week in reefing first, because a lot of people know my week in reefing, so it'll be more interesting to hear yours, and I don't know yours yet.
I'm not really. My week in reefing's been pretty quiet because it's been the last week. I'm now off work until the 6th of January. So I've had quite a lot of stuff to do with that, which means I've not paid much attention to my tanks. And really, at the moment, I'm so fed up. People can get tired of me moaning about not having fish in the tank, because that's all I say now. I'm so fed up of having no fish. And I went into Reefkeeper yesterday, obvi, and just had a look around, and I was just like, I want that fish, and I can't buy.
What were those fish out of interest?
There was a pic. So it's I want to put something in the cade. So I want the Pictus Blenny, which we'll come on to later. And I want two what are they called, pink skunk clownfish as well. And I want a shrimp goby as well. And also, so I posted a video of my quarantine tank yesterday on Instagram, and they're all doing really well. All the ones that survived anyway.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's like I want, and actually they're quite happy. To be fair, they don't look stressed. They're not hiding all the time or whatever. They're always out and about and swimming, and they look good. But I want them to be in a proper tank. So it's like, but yeah. So everything's going fine. And actually, so my next video is going to be. I'm just going to cough. But my next video is going to be, because I've had 2 months now without fish in the tank. I'm going to do a video about what happens when you have no fish in the tank, because people ask that surprisingly often. Can I have a reef tank with no fish? And I'll spoil it for you now, so you don't have to watch it. Not that you would anyway.
Before you say that, the people in Florida that grow the corals, like they don't have fish in there. Oh, are you about to say you don't? I thought you were going to say you do need to have fish.
No, you don't need to. Just it's funny. So there's been differences with my two. So I've got two tanks: the Cade over my shoulder and the Big Red Sea downstairs.
Yeah.
And the Cade over my shoulder, I didn't make a point of taking photos day one and now, so I can't show you before and after. So I could probably dig some photos out, but it don't really look any different. It's grown, and the bloody GSP won't stop growing. And it's really annoying. Someone's messaged me on Ultimate Reef asking if I can give them a frag of the GSP. I can do, but I haven't finished the fallow period yet, so you don't really want it in case.
Yeah.
I think actually it's been more than 6 weeks, and I'm pretty sure it was just Brooklynella in that tank. So I think in that case it's probably fine, but I'm not going to give corals away until after the full fallow period. But anyway, so that tank actually is fine. It looks really good. 0 algae, a little bit of a bubble algae outbreak, but that's it. No algae otherwise. I hardly ever have to scrape the glass. The filter roller rarely turns. Corals are doing really well. Everything looks fantastic, and I still ghost feed the tank every day, or most days anyway. Still do water changes, but it just looks really good.
What was keeping the bubble algae down previously then?
That's the thing. I think they're not necessarily linked. The two are not necessarily linked, because the only fish I had in before were the clownfish. And as far as I'm aware, clownfish don't eat bubble algae. If they do, I've made a discovery.
That's true.
So I don't think. I think it's just happened that there was some in there, and it just maybe it came in on a coral 3 months ago, and it's just starting to take off a bit. But but even then, I've not really got that much bubble algae in there. But the K tank is doing really good. It looks really good. The only problem I had was when I changed over to the night crew lights. I ran them really low intensities because I didn't want to risk bleaching my corals, and I was only going to have that temporarily. But then when I put my proper lighting setup, my permanent lighting setup back on, I just put it at the percentages it was at before, which was then much stronger par than the night crew had been. So for 2 weeks they'd got not much par, and then suddenly they were getting quite a lot of par. And one of my Cyphastria, it's got like lots of little, just like 1 or 2 of the polyps bleached. It's weird, but I think it's recovered. But apart from that, that tank is doing really well. But the Red Sea one is generally fine. I had this outbreak of ulva that's died back, and that was obviously being eaten by tangs and the rabbitfish. But the main thing in that tank is actually it's doing great. The corals look fantastic, and there are some corals that are I've thrown away 2 gonnies last week that were basically dead. And but apart from that, everything's doing really well, and the corals actually for the most part look probably slightly better than they did before. Especially today, everything looks really bushy and healthy. But I've just got aptasia everywhere, and it's spread. I bought some aptasia eating Bergia nudibranchs. And the plan was you've got 2 or 3 months before any fish go in there, so you're not going to get eaten. Do your worst, and they've just they literally did
the worst job.
They did the worst. I think if I left them in there for a year without a fish that would eat them, they would have been able to catch up. But I had too much in there already, and I only bought like 5 because they're quite expensive. 6 maybe, I can't remember. So I need to put a fish in there of some kind. But that's it basically. So, but we'll come back onto that. So that's my week in reefing has been just looking at aptasia. I took a good photo of an aptasia, which is the thumbnail for this video.
Why do you hate not having fish so much? Because obviously I had to have a fallow period as well.
Yeah.
But I had a fallow period with no coral, so like I was just looking at a tank with rocks.
It's just something. So it's funny because the coral. I'm more of a coral guy than a fish guy. But the corals look fantastic, and they're. I've got some of my favourite corals. I love them in there, and it looks amazing to me. But a tank without fish in it is just boring. There's just no movement. I bought a boxer shrimp the other week just to have something in there that would move, and he just hides all day long. I never see him. So it's just boring with no. Obviously, the corals wave around. But without the fish darting in and out, it's just not the same. And to the point that if the choice was, like if they banned keeping fish, for example, but you could still keep inverts, cleanup crew, and corals, I'm not sure I'd do it. I probably would, to be fair, but it's just I'm not getting the kick out of it, or not the same kick anyway.
It's interesting because you can have a tank without coral that just has fish in it. And you can appreciate it. Like I know you'll go, it's a bit boring, but I've actually grown to enjoy my tank with just fish in it over the last.
We've got reversey bursey tanks at the moment, haven't we? Actually?
Yeah. But you don't seem to be able to enjoy it the other way around. And maybe it's almost like the fish are the personality, and the coral is like the artwork that you appreciate. Do you see what I mean? It's
Completely. Yeah, completely. Yeah. And but you need the two to make something awesome.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting because this is I know you will have known what this was already, and you probably had this on your mind previously. But you said that you saw a Pictus Blenny and you wanted one. Now, did obviously I bought one recently and put that in a video, and I've never mentioned a Pictus Blenny to you previously, and I've never had you tell me you want one, as far as I know. Did you get influenced by that video, or was that always something you wanted?
I've been thinking about putting a Blenny in that tank for a long time.
Yeah.
And I want something small, and it's either that or the Great Barrier Reef Blenny, which I think is called the Line Blenny. I can never remember what it's called.
I got a gold stripe one as well. The gold stripe one is sort of, I think, more interesting than the Pictus. The Pictus looks like it's wearing a little suit, doesn't it? Like a pinstripe
they do,
suit.
and the Pictus, I hate to say this because it's going to ruin my masculine aura, but they're quite cute.
Trust me, you don't have a masculine aura.
Wow. Yeah. But Pictus Blennies are cute. I really like them. So, but your video, I was like, oh yeah, okay. So it's like it's brought it back to the front of my mind as well. And actually, there are times when Reef Dudes did a video recently where he was chucking in a load of inverts into his little Hello Fresh, Simply Fresh. Well, that's a shop, isn't it? Hello Reef, his little Hello Reef.
Fresh is a food service,
food delivery service. Yeah. To his Hello Reef tank, he put a load of inverts in there, and I did that in. What tank did I put a load of character inverts in a tank a while ago, and I really liked them.
Yeah,
and it was a water box, and I'm going to do the same again in the Cade. So just so sometimes you'll see a video and you're like, yeah, actually, you know what, I like that. Yeah, influencers, right? See,
yeah, that's what I was just interested because like you influenced me into getting the hawkfish, but I actually, to be fair, I actually had to have one. I had to have your one here to do it. I always wonder how much and this happens quite a lot, where I'll buy a box fish or something. This is obviously from a long time ago. And all of a sudden you get a load of messages going, I bought a box fish because you bought a box fish. And I'm going, no, don't do that. These are like fish that are very hard to keep. And so sometimes I wonder whether I'm doing the right thing if I get something that's like, for example, the Moorish Idol you had. I reckon there are people out there that would have gone and bought a Moorish Idol because Reef Dork's got one, so I want one.
Yeah,
not because they want to be like you.
No.
You're showing them, if you see what I mean.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's so I've done the same thing. I'll see a Pictus Blenny on your channel. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll buy one of them. But that's just how you get inspiration. I don't think that's like that for me. Doesn't weigh as a burden on me. Like, oh my god,
it
should I make a video?
Depends how you're inspiring people. If I was like, hey, look, I got a black tip reef shark, you might have something to say about it.
Yeah. But like with the Moorish Idol, so it's not like I was saying, oh, these are amazing. Like if you're making a video where you buy a fish that's difficult to keep or likely to die or whatever, and you're just encouraging everybody to buy it, well, that you probably shouldn't be doing that. But if you're saying, look, these are difficult to keep, I don't know how I'm going to get on, it's likely to eat corals. And with mine, the title for the Moorish Idol, when I got it, the title was something like, I'm going to regret this. And then a week later was, watch this before you get a Moorish Idol. So
I did regret this.
I did regret it. But yeah, that's like, I obviously, like, I think you and I will, if there's something that we, I don't think we ever share stuff that is like harmful. And if there was something that was in that realm, we'd think about it a lot. But
it's the box fish. That's the one that I always have questioned, because this channel became basically famous with that box fish, because I had a box fish in a reef tank at the time. And I just, as I said, that, and in my box fish video had like tens of thousands of views. It's like the jellyfish videos. Like, I don't really like jellyfish, but for some reason those jellyfish videos get huge amounts of views. For like far more views than normal videos do.
So they feel like a great idea when you see them because they look cool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and then someone will say they're easy or whatever. Oh, okay. And like when we went to Aqua, I talked to TMC about their new jellyfish tank.
Yeah.
And I did go away thinking, it's the sort of thing that when you're at a show like that, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, look, do you want one? Just set it up and make a video about it. And I started to think, well, what would I do? Would I actually get one? Because do I actually want it? And it's like, actually, I think I do. And then when you think about it a bit longer, you're like, no, actually, it's a terrible idea. It'll be great for a week, and then I'll hate it. Yeah, and I don't want another tank.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's,
if it was your only tank, like, go for it. Like, because then you got nothing to compare it to, and and you have one thing to focus on and clean and love every day. But if you've got like 3 tanks or 4, I don't even know how many I've got any at the moment, but it's yeah, it becomes a problem when you don't know how many tanks you have.
But even then, jellyfish are pretty boring, aren't they? And I've heard a few people say, just get a lava lamp.
That's what I said. I said they're the world's most ungrateful pet because they don't give you anything back.
The person I talked to, Amy, does some stuff. She said they're a bit. I can't remember how she put it, but it was basically the same sort of thing because she had one for a little while.
Yeah,
and it's like I think that they look. I love the idea of having one over my shoulder because I think it would look cool. Yeah. And I think every now and then I'd turn around and be like, "Oh, they're cool," but they're only cool because you shine a different color light on them. They're actually a really boring animal to keep. And the whole point of the saltwater hobby is that we keep awesome animals that have got character and personality and that are beautiful, and so.
True.
There you go. Don't buy jellyfish.
With regards, sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say, with regards to my week in reefing, I'm assuming you finished yours.
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
So obviously, my week in reefing has been documented through the video series which I've been doing.
Vlogmas, yep.
It's not Vlogmas. I don't do Christmas, so it's not Vlogmas, but it is a video series which obviously. It's been tougher than I think. Alex said I'd run out of steam was the word you put before, didn't you? What you said to me before the show. It's not that. It's difficult to find new content all the time. It's not normal for things to happen every day. But some of them have been fun. Anyway, so the main things that happened this week were I have started quarantining all the fish that are in that system. Those angelfish, the master world-tailed angelfish, are now in the copper. They are in 2.2 copper. That's the highest I'm going for. I'm not going any higher than that. Everything is eating, including the sensitive Nassau tang.
Okay, that's good.
And I'm only doing it for 14 days. But I have to sit there each morning and go, right, I feed each tank individually. So I go, yep, every fish in that tank is eating. Every fish in this tank is eating. Every fish in the next tank is eating, just so that I know that they're not being affected. And I'm paying a lot of attention because there's quite a lot of, it's quite expensive that tank there. There's quite a lot of fish of high expense in that system at the moment, including like some of them are yours. So it's like that puts even more pressure on me, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Have
you found the golden angel? Have you seen him since he went in?
I do see him very occasionally, but the thing is, when you go to film something, you have your microphone on and you have your phone with you or whatever. I just see him occasionally, like when I'm putting food in the tank. He doesn't come. Like, I've never seen him eat anything, but he's still in there. And he's still, there's loads of microphone and sponges and stuff, so he might be.
He must be eating something because he'd be dead by now, wouldn't he?
He couldn't. He's been here probably like 6 weeks, I think, or five weeks, or unless I got actually, I might have got him at the start of the video series. I can't remember, but I've never seen him eat. But as I said, did you see the video put out where I did put a video out, and it's like Bigfoot, where you can't quite tell that because I filmed it.
That was a terrible video. Yeah,
that's because
that's all you can do. Yeah,
that's all I can do. The glass was covered, and I didn't have my microphone, so I just thought, well, let's just prove he still exists.
Yeah, you can see something moving.
It was the same with the molly that I put in the this.
Had he escaped from your sump? He went through the return pump.
That was insane. There is no other way that fish could have got into that tank. For those of you that don't know, I'm not even sure what this is the problem when you film every day. I don't even know if I got those mollies last week, the week before, but I acclimated mollies to saltwater, which I thought was I'd never done it before, so I wasn't sure how difficult it was to do, but it's actually really, really easy. Like it took like 3 days of just slowly like increasing the salt every few hours or whatever. I've still got all of them. Jake Adams did a video saying that you can lose some of them, but for whatever, I've still got all of them. They're actually great fish for sumps, I've got them in the quarantine system as well, and they like any leftover food. Basically, the tanks that they're in are cleaner than the tanks that they don't have them in because they eat fish waste, they eat fish food. I mean, they produce a lot of waste, to be fair. But having them next to each other, at like a marine fish and a freshwater fish, I just think, not for me.
They also that I've seen them in saltwater tanks, and they look like a fish up a tree because they're not used to the level of flow and current. So how do they get on? Because you've got one in your display tank now.
Oh, not
Accidentally.
anymore. I got him out of the
Oh, you
display
fished
tank.
him out, did you?
Yeah.
How did he get on? Was he getting blown over all over the place, or was he holding his own?
I will be completely honest with you. I saw him twice. The first time I saw him, and then just he disappeared because they're like pitch black. If you think that seeing the blue assessor is hard to see on a black background, you literally cannot see them at all. So it just so happened that there were 2 times where he was right at the front, and the second time I literally just put my hand in and grabbed him out. And this is the problem with freshwater fish; they don't have any like personality because they're so like used to people. Yeah, they have no instincts. So the fact I can put my hand in the tank when it's in the corner and just scoop them out.
Okay?
Yeah. They're almost like robots. Now look, not all freshwater fish will be like that, but that's the thing that's the biggest difference that I notice with the behavior of fresh and saltwater fish.
Yeah.
If you put your finger on the tank in a maidenhead, all the guppies come over to your finger, and I'm like, this is not what I want. I want a natural.
I want you to fear me.
Yeah, I just want them to act normal, where they're out like grazing the rockwork and stuff.
But that's the thing that's so amazing about saltwater fish, because they act the same way they do on the reef, and so they're hiding. They're worrying about predators. They're looking for food. They're trying to find a cave that is just theirs, that no one else sleeps in. All this sort of stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, so they have been quite interesting. Because as I said, I've never had freshwater fish. It's been quite interesting to do that. If anyone wants to do it, like, don't worry about it. It's really easy. They have gone. So then I've now got 3 in the sump of the quarantine system, and 1 actually in one of the tanks of the quarantine system, and then the other 2 are in the water box. And I'm just because the reason they're in the sump is because they went over the overflow again. So not only do they go over the overflow, they'll come back up through the return pump, through the blaze of death.
Are you going to do anything to stop that? Like put a little weir comb on it or something?
It doesn't matter to me so they're not. So they've stopped from doing that in the water box. They stay in the sump now. But with regards to the ones in the quarantine system, they can't get back into the tank. Like it's a different setup, so they're fine in there. And as I said, my sump has never looked so clean because they eat all the waste, all the algae, everything. It was brilliant because sometimes food would go over the overflow, and now I've got them in there. It's like spotlessly clean.
I'd see this is making me want to put one in my sump when I set it up as a frag tank, which I will do soon.
Yeah,
I still think I prefer the idea of a scoper tank or something, but why not just put
originally I said don't do it, didn't I?
Yeah,
but I'll be honest.
If I'm never going to see it, because my sump is all black anyway, so I'm never going to see it, and it's going to keep it tidy, and it's going to peck algae off the corals, the frags that are there.
Yeah.
Oh, don't make me do it, Ryan.
No, you can literally have one of mine because I don't need 6. Yeah. I got them so I could have them in multiple different tanks. Or
it's not like they're difficult to catch either. So
no. So if you want one of mine, you can have those.
Maybe.
Speaking of the quarantine tank, the angelfish, one of the angelfish is like seriously mean, like seriously mean. Like, and it's funny because
one of the Japanese angels.
Yeah, one of the females is like an absolute is an absolute not. So I put a gem tang in there with her. And like I thought they're 2 entirely different fish. They look different. And she just like I had to remove the gem tang because she just did, and that was actually
split her fin, didn't she?
Right to the base, right to her head, basically, or whatever, like the main part of the fish.
Back,
yeah. But and she's like that with everything. She's like that with everything except things that are really, really small. So small things she's fine with, but anything of the same size. I have, however, put her in with a whitetail cold tang now because I just moved some of the fish around. And so far they seem to be okay because they're like vastly different and they're also different color. And the whitetail cold is also mean. So I thought, let's I'll put you 2 bullies together and see how you get on. But I never suspected it. Like I've never heard of Genicanthus being like that. And you get common swallowtails quite often.
So Bellis angels have got a bit of a reputation for being semi-aggressive. Yeah, that's one of the things that put me off because some of the Bellis angels, I think they look quite cool
Yeah.
Genicanthus are generally a little bit more plain, aren't they? But the bellis, I think, look all right.
Yeah.
Especially the blue stripy ones, which I think is the female.
That
But
is
they
the
have a
female.
bit. They
What
have
is
a
wrong with
reputation for
you?
being a bit.
You always
Why?
pick the worst one of a pair. Do a poll. You always pick the worst one of a pair of angelfish. So you prefer the female. The male is 100% better.
No, hang on a
Yeah,
second.
it is.
Let me just make sure we're on the same page.
The male's
you think
yellow.
that silver, boring, like tetra?
No.
You think that's better than the
Don't
blue?
start trying to influence people when you're about to do a poll.
I'm an
But
influencer.
I 100% would. Plus, the males are much rarer as well. So, listen, while you're listening, viewers, yeah, rare. We like rare things, don't we?
Blue bellis, boring silver bellis. There you go.
But it's not. It's the yellow. That is a really
silver.
vibrant yellow color.
It's a boring yellow. Get a yellow wrasse, for God's sake. How many bluefish do you see? I actually don't. I wouldn't have. I don't really like either. If I'm complete, every time I think about them, I think, oh, I do like them, and it's like, well, I think I'm probably just telling myself I like them because they're reef safe. And
I saw a pair of them like in real life the other day, and the male is way nicer. That's just my opinion, but
well, you're wrong.
Oh, is that what people are saying?
No, people are siding with me for once. Yes,
that is rare.
Good. Very rare. But no, I don't. The Bellis Angels are okay, but anyway,
I consider getting one.
Yeah, I've thought about getting one loads in the past. Actually, probably the main thing that stopped me is that my tank was too small in the past, whereas now I've got a 6-footer. So
yeah,
but I've got an aggressive psycho hose beast Japanese angel coming my way. So wicked.
And the reason I was moving fish around was because I bought a quite expensive fish. It's one of the fish that people sort of consider like on the top of their list of what they want. It's funny because when you said to me, "What's your week in reefing has been like before the stream started?" I thought like I haven't done anything, but I've actually got quite a lot. I've just realised. So I bought a Swiss Guard. Not a Swiss Guard. I bought a candy basslet. Yes. So they are very, very. It's called fruit salad because it looks like a fruit salad sweet. But they are a cool fish.
It's an amazing fish.
Yeah, and I had a Swiss Guard basslet before. There's quite a few different types of basslets you can get. There's a Swalesy one as well, I believe.
That's a Swalesy. But yeah, there are a few there's one that looks kind of similar to the fruit salad one.
That one is so Swiss Guard is the one that's slightly similar.
Okay. It's like a poor man's version. And every time I've looked at it before, I've been like, oh, maybe I should get that one because it's not that expensive. And then you're like, no, it's just not the same. Swiss Guard basslet.
The Swiss Guard was one of my favorite fish of all time. I had it in a 1,000-liter tank, and it's the same as always. I love fish you don't see every day. So I would see it intermittently every so often, and it's not that different. I'll be honest with you. When you say a poor man's, it's not that cheap for a fish that's like
no, they're not. But when I've seen them in shops, and there are two types. There's one that looks a bit more plain than that. But even when I've seen that in the shop, it's just like that's a good photo. It's well lit. They don't look that awesome. That actually looks quite cool. When I've seen them in the flesh, I've been a bit underwhelmed. I've been like,
No, are you sure you haven't? Are you sure? So the Swals, which is Swales, that is the one I think you're thinking of because that one really is underwhelming.
I've definitely seen both of them, but that is you're right. That's underwhelming. That's
even worse.
AF, yeah, that's like
you get a completely pink one as well, whereas it's not like a vibrant pink. It's just like a very, very basic pink color, but I can't remember what it's called.
But the one you've got that's a stunning fish.
That's
the main thing that pisses me off is that they jump more than the price. Well, not actually, it's not true. It is the price. But
you have a net though, don't you?
I do, but
you'd fear literally doing a water change or anything.
They find a way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they're just. Have you? So she's currently in quarantine.
Yes, she's in quarantine. And it was interesting because she wouldn't eat, and she was eating at the shop. She'd been there for months. And it's funny because every time I was there, I was like, I fed her. And she immediately stopped eating as soon as I put her in the tank. And she was in a tank with a whitetail, with the whitetail cold tang. And I was like, why is this fish not eating? And then I put live food in and it still wouldn't eat. And I thought that's very unusual. And then I saw it just chase one of the live brine shrimp, and immediately the whitetail like came over and chased it back into the hole. And that was when I realized it's like, if a fish isn't eating, it's not because it's not hungry. It's because I knew this already.
There's a reason for it. Yeah.
It's because it's not comfortable, and that is the biggest issue that people have with copper bands. So a copper band that's eating in the shop that doesn't eat in your tank after it's been chased by all the tangs you have it's not comfortable, which is why it stops eating. And as soon as I think it was about 5 minutes later, I removed the whitetail coal, and it's out swimming around all the time now. So, because after I bought it, I was like, I'm never going to see this fish. It's like literally never going to come out like of a cave. Whereas now it's swimming around all the time. So it really does come down to what you keep with them.
It's funny. So whitetail coal tanks. So mine was generally fine, but he bullied timid fish. It's like he picks on the weakest fish, which is like, low life scumbag of a fish. But
but yours was the highest was the highest in the hierarchy of your fish, wasn't it? Other than maybe a fox face.
Foxes, even though they're quite timid, to be fair, given how big they are.
Yeah.
I didn't have. It wasn't. Yeah, I didn't have loads of tangs. I don't think so.
Whereas I think he'll probably be lower down on the pecking order compared to, because I've got a few tangs now. It'd be interesting to see in 14 days' time when I put them all in all at the same time. Like, I'm not worried about what's going to happen with the bioload of the tank, because it's a big tank. And essentially, if you think about it, if I don't feed them the day before, so they're basically empty, you're not really adding any bioload if you just feed the same amount.
I think it'll do your tank a favour, to be honest.
Yeah, it probably would. The reason I got the whitetail is because I wanted to have something that scraped the back glass, just to keep like the algae down. And although it won't get rid of like coralline algae and stuff like that, it'll keep that little sort of fine, like dusting that turns up every day.
Yeah, totally.
So that's why I got that. And speaking of dusting, the final thing to let you know is that I got rid of the dinoflagellates. And when I say got rid of them, they disappeared for like a week. And all the cyano disappeared for a week. And then for some reason, it just has recently started creeping back in. So I got one of those. I got a UV sweeper, is what I did.
Yeah.
So if you read the forums, people say they work. They're just very labor intensive. So you have to do it every day for a period of time, and it's 5 seconds per spot. So you have to like put it in, hold it there 5 seconds, move it an inch over, hold it there for 5 seconds, move it an inch over.
It's funny because that's probably only 5 minutes work. So it's actually not that much, but it feels, there's something about that that's like,
it's because boring.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm doing just one patch of sand. That's like just one sort of foot of sand, basically. And interesting enough, they're not growing there.
Yeah,
so it is showing that it will, whether it will work long term. Apparently it does, but because it gives other things a chance to take over.
Yeah, okay.
And people say, well, if you're UV sterilizing it, the sand bed, does that not kill everything? And you were like, well, no. Dinoflagellates live on top of the sand because they need the light. So then as soon as you like wipe them all out, the stuff that's below the sand gets a chance to move up.
I'm sure it will be sterilizing some other stuff.
Yes, yeah. But not that anything like a millimeter down is not being touched because the light's not touching it.
Yeah. In any event, it's worth a trade-off if it works. So
yeah,
because you run a UV sterilizer anyway, so anything that goes through the water column, that's getting zapped. Yeah. It's just stuff that's on the rock and on the sand bed. It's got free reign.
Yeah. So over the Christmas period, there's like 3 days, isn't there, really, where no one does anything. I'm probably just going to like really intensely do it then, and see what happens. But yeah, that's my week in reefing. It's not massively exciting. Something it was.
Kind of whining. But someone mentioned earlier, Gary McConnell, I think it was, about the series. Said he's really enjoying it, and I think that's actually first off, to get 22 days in and have 22 videos. I struggle to make one a fortnight at the moment. So
there's like yours are a bit more like intensely like
nonetheless. Either way, even if I did like Reef Dork extra videos, excuse me, are much less. They're still a little bit more involved, but I just turn the camera on and start talking basically.
Yeah.
And there's no way I could do 22 of those in a row. So to get that far in is good going. It's hard work, and even
It is. It is.
having stuff to think about and having the motivation to do it. Because at first it's probably like, oh, this is awesome,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, you know. But they've been really good, and even like, so you were kind of talking to me the other day as if like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to carry on, and it felt to me like you basically switched off and you'd given up. And so I watched the video after that.
That was yesterday's video. Is the one you watched, I think.
Yeah, and I was expecting it to be awful, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
But actually, it was really good. There was loads of really useful information in there still. Really good.
It's not about doing it or editing. I actually love editing. I hate being on camera, but I love the editing of it. I don't know why. It's a weird thing. That's just like, that's what I enjoy. It's the thinking of things every day which are relevant. That's the thing that I find hard to do.
Worth talking about.
Now, at some point in time over the Christmas period, I am going to Jamie's house with Jamie's Reef. If anyone wants to know who I'm talking about, he's got an absolutely massive tank.
Instagram,
We're basically, to do any sort of serious fragging, he has to get into the tank. So I'm actually going there to help him, and basically just film him in his little speedos for everyone. So, so you weren't listening there, were you? Because you were.
Oh, sorry. I just realised you said the word speedos or something. I was trying to scan through the comments, but
I can tell when you're not listening. But,
yeah.
So I think Jamie's gonna get in the tank. And he's gonna sort of do a big maintenance
in his speedos,
thing.
Right?
Yeah, and I might film some of that. Basically, not so much the speedos thing, but like the it'll be interesting. But again, it's just because it's forcing me to make content. And if something's forcing you to make content, you're not always like super excited about it. But some of them have been good, and some less so.
Yeah, and there are things like I find the videos that I enjoy most are the ones that I put the most effort into, like how to set up an aquarium video. They take a long time, and I get a lot of pleasure out of that. But there are other videos that are really satisfying, and ones that do really well out of nowhere. Someone it'll just take off and go crazy. But if you're doing a video every day, you're not going to get like 20, 30, 40, 50,000 views. It's just not going to happen. So you don't get that dopamine hit.
No, I know what you mean.
So yeah.
Jamie's in the chat, and Jamie has just said he votes that I get in the tank, and that is because
speedos.
he wants to see me in speedos. You might want to retract that comment.
Yeah.
But look, every so often I think I'm not going to do anymore, and then every so often I do. I just go, actually, I'll just find something to talk about, and yeah, some of them have been fun. It has actually got me to do quite a lot. It's very like what is it? Help makes you accountable. So I do more because of them. Like I'm literally doing stuff that I've just been ignoring for ages. But and the other thing is, people have been saying in the comments, this is actually really helping me. Even if it's just like one 15-second comment in that video, then they've gone, oh, I never knew that, and then that actually makes you feel good.
That's satisfying. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So, yeah.
A comment just caught my eye, and this is from Xanderjam, which I'm probably mispronouncing. How do I get rid of feather duster worms? And he's later said, oh, no, they're cool. That's good. I love feather duster worms. I've got a few in my... If you want to get rid of them, get a butterfly fish. You'll probably eat your corals as well. But
yeah.
But I love... So I've got a load of them popping up on my main tank. I just think they're really cool. And they will never... They will never get to pest plague proportions, and they're much prettier than something like Aptasia.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the things that when I sort out the Aptasia, it's likely to be a fish. It's likely to be a copper band, if I'm honest, but it's likely to be a fish that eats feather dusters, and that's one downside is I'm going to lose all my nice little feather duster worms. So, but let's do the. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, as I always say, the more good mouths you have in your tank, the better. So they'll be doing some sort of filtration on a very minor scale, but it's just having a healthy ecosystem in your tank.
Yeah, totally. And the poll I'm just ending the poll. Which do you prefer? Blue Bellis 69%, and this is YouTube math, so boring silver Bellis 30%.
I'm really surprised, although you did sell it to them. as the
I showed a picture.
So.
And I've tried that tactic before, it hasn't worked. So
yeah, true.
But yeah, so what I wanted to do was go through, and I'll come on to member questions next. In fact, you know what? Let's do member questions now, and then we'll do the rundown of the old Aptasia.
Yeah,
there's a lot of there's pent up demand, Ryan. So we've got first off, skier, sailor, biker guy who wants to talk about motorbikes. Oh, go on then, if I have to. What is your motorcycle method of fish or coral transportation? How long in terms of time would be your maximum trip on the bike for fish or coral? I'm trying to work out my method to keep them warm, safe if I venture out to a shop on a bike. So I pick up corals and fish regularly on my bike from a shop half an hour away. And one of my bikes is quite loud. I don't know if the fish can hear that. I presume they can feel vibrations. It's fine. That's no problem whatsoever. Yeah. And I sometimes keep them in my backpack. Some on my other bike, I've got a big box, like a top box, so I'll put them in the top case. If I'm really bothered, I'll put a poly box in either the backpack or in the top box. But realistically, it's not likely to get. They're going to experience worse temperature conditions on a plane than they are on the back of a bike. So I've never been too bothered, and I've picked up corals in a car, to be fair, but I would happily ride for a few hours with a coral on a bike. I would probably, if I was going to do a long trip, I'd have a poly box, maybe a heat pack, but probably not, to be fair. A few hours in a poly box would be fine. So that's it.
Yeah, just as long as it's not like freezing cold outside, it'll be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. And Nigel Fisher, EI1WD, Nigel Fisher says aptasia for nudibranch were expensive food for wrasses. This is his breakdown of this. Aptasia. Nudibranchs were expensive food for wrasses. Filefish preferred the taste of LPS. Peppermints added and never seen again. Copperband fish is tempting, but I can't see how I'd keep it fed when I go on holidays. And what 3D printing modeling software do you use? Bamboo Labs, the stuff for slicing, and Tinkercad is what I use. But yeah, so that's a reasonable rundown. We'll come back onto the Aptasia stuff in a minute, and we'll do a breakdown of that.
He's done Andrew. It for us.
Yeah, no, yeah. Job done. Andrew says Bergia worked great for me. They bred to become a large group, wiped out all visible Aptasia, and then died off. A couple of months later, the Aptasia are back with a vengeance. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Bergia may be something that needs replenishing 2 or 3 times a year, safer than an LPS eating filefish, and easier than a copperband. Again, we'll come back onto all that, and we'll talk about that. Tom Bishbosh says, any advice on what's best to use when leveling a tank in terms of a material, and where it's best to level it from, under the tank or under the cabinet? So I mean, obviously you want to level it properly. So whatever stand it's on has to be level, and you don't want to be using any kind of foam or whatever that does the job of leveling. However, if you've got it gun barrel straight and you want to put a leveling mat underneath as a bonus, then you can buy. Oh, your battery's died, Ryan.
My battery's died. That's all right. It's quite intense anyway, so I'm happy.
You're better. You can buy leveling mats, but to be honest, most of them, if they're quite thin, as soon as you put a heavy tank on it, it just disappears. I don't think it does anything. So if you do get something, get a thick foam, at least 1 centimeter thick. Maybe that's a bit thick, but I don't find they do much on the Cade, and probably on the water box as well. It's got like this quite a thick neoprene kind of feeling stuff. But something thick. I've only ever really. I did put one under my the Reef Casa once, but the tank was already level anyway, to be honest. So I just use the stuff that comes with the tank. Have you ever put leveling foam? Do you use it?
I have. I can't remember what it was. I got some sort of special high density foam for under the coral farm. Yeah. Also, some people just use plywood. I don't know why that's classified as okay, and there's no facts here, so don't. But I think it just the tank sort of sinks into it, but it doesn't look as fancy.
Plywood.
Yeah, I think so.
Wood. Wood's hard, right?
Yeah, no, but I think I don't know. I'm sure I've heard that before.
Yeah, that sounds like bollocks, if I'm honest.
It's not. Google it.
I'm not saying you can't use it. It's just not going to do any leveling. But you'd put it. The other question, you put it under the tank, not under the cabinet. You can do both, I suppose. But if you put it under the tank, then it has insulation benefits as well. So it will help avoid temperature losses and temperature waste.
It says on Reef to Reef, the weight of the tank will even out any imperfections in the plywood. I don't know. No. Okay, fine.
I wouldn't do that. You can use polystyrene as well. I've seen people do that. That's more for insulation. I don't know how much give that gets, and it'll look ugly as well unless you can cover it. But some kind of thick, like thick kind of rubbery kind of insulation material. Do some Googling. But you want it to be fairly thick, because I think the stuff I bought for my Reef Casa was 5 mil thick. You put the tank on it. Tank anyway is 50 kilos. It's completely flattens the whole thing. It's like, all right. So, but it probably did something to, because it was on a cold worktop otherwise. So that would have helped with insulation at least.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Skier Sailor Bikey Guy also says, added a RAS, and he's updated this later. It was a Macropharyngodon ornatus, an ornate wrasse. He put it in on Thursday, joined the tank fine, as expected, buried itself in the sand. From research suggested they may hide it for up to 2 weeks, but I have a pistol shrimp who I heard clicking, and I know the wrasse buried near the burrow. The pistol couldn't have caused harm to a fish more than twice its size, right? Stunning fish, unless a follow-up comes. And then he follows up to say, update, she was out this morning, so 60 hours and I can go back to normal anxiety of making sure she's healthy and feeding properly. So wrasses disappear for ages, and it's never really anything to worry about. And to be honest, if they disappear, you don't want to go around fishing and trying to move them in the sandbed, because it's just going to stress them out. So if they disappear, you might want to try feeding them at night, feeding the tank at night.
Can I see a picture of that wrasse? I'm just intrigued. I just googled ornate wrasse, and there's like loads of different ones come up.
Ornate. Let me try it.
You have to Google the Latin name of it.
There's a Macropharyngodon, which is a leopard. This one, is that the same as you've got?
That wasn't what came up for me. Not even.
But I searched ornate leopard wrasse because he said it was
okay.
macro, which is what this is. Yeah, here we go. Macropharyngodon ornatus. Just that one. That's that your one?
That's not what came up, and that's not what I've got. No.
Okay. But yeah, and the other thing he talks about pistol shrimp. Is it a concern? I hear pistol shrimp getting blamed for killing fish all the time, and I'm extraordinarily skeptical of that. Have you had pistol shrimp?
I've never had a pistol shrimp ever, not once.
No,
I don't like adding things you can't get out.
Yeah, okay. They're not that hard, actually, to be fair. But unless you got to move your rock. But they keep themselves to themselves. They're very peaceful. I'd be amazed if that happens. Maybe it does happen, but it's not a likely explanation, I think. And I feel bad for pistol shrimp when they get blamed for murder. Surrey Reefer, out of nowhere. Oh, this is bad news, I'm afraid. Out of nowhere, I lost all of my fish to what I think is Brooklynella. I've seen mixed timeframes for a fallow period. Is 12 weeks a sensible time frame, and do you maintain weekly water changes? And he also said that he hadn't added any fish for 6 months. It came out of nowhere. Can it come in on a coral? No idea where it could have come from. Unless it was cross contamination. So maybe you've got another. No cross contamination. So it can come in on a coral. So if you quarantine fish, technically, if you want to do things properly in inverted commas, you should quarantine anything wet that goes in your tank. Shrimp, crabs, hermit crabs, corals, anything.
Nothing's been added for a long time.
No fish
were added.
Yeah. So it might be that it came in on. It might be that it was just dormant, or that the fish were dealing with it, and then it came out. But it might be that it came in on a coral or something. Yeah, it's pretty unlucky.
I think you're very unlucky in that situation if you're not adding.
If you're getting it on a coral. Yeah.
Basically, if you've added clownfish, I go, that's a risk if you're adding a clownfish.
Yeah,
but
especially wild.
Add nothing for ages.
Yeah. But the question was what's the fallow period? I believe, and check humble fish, humblefish. The Humble Fish Forum. I believe for Brooklynella it's 6 weeks, and I think that's regardless of temperature. With ick, I think the temperature has to be 27 degrees for it to be 6 weeks. But with Brook, I think it's just 6 weeks anyway. So I think I had Brook. I don't know because I didn't test properly, but I think I had Brook in the cade, and I'm leaving that 3 months just because why not?
If you've gone this far, you might as well do the extra bit as well.
Yeah. So, and that's probably the correct period is 6 weeks. And do check humble fish, of course, but why not leave it a little bit longer? It's just, especially because on the cade, that's doing really well. Like if it was causing me problems, maybe I'd want to start putting fish in. I don't know, but if it's fine, why bother? and you can just ghost feed. I just ghost feed in that tank. So like in my main tank, I'm feeding mysis shrimp, which feeds the aptasia, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
But on the cade, I chuck food in there, and the corals catch some of it. The rest goes down into my filter roller, so it's fine. Happy days. But yeah, bad news. Shall we do the headline topic?
Yes.
And we're going to rattle through this because there's a lot of news to go on. So 49.50. Aptasia, the pros and cons of every method of keeping aptasia. So I've drawn up a list, Ryan, of all the methods of getting rid of aptasia. Aptasia is a pain in the arse. So it's spread reasonably wide in my tank. There's quite a lot of it actually now. It's not a disaster, but there's a lot more of it than I'd like, and I need to do something. And there are a couple of points where it's touching my corals and doing nothing. There's a couple of other points where it's touching my corals and stinging them. And like I've got a Raja Rampage chalice that's stripped in the corner where the aptasia is touching it. So they do damage, and they just look ugly. They're popping up in the sand bed on the glass, pissing me off.
In the sand bed, you really are. That is a serious infestation.
Yeah. So they're annoying me, and they need to go. So I've drawn up a list of 10 of these of talking points. Basically, first one, prevention.
That's what I've written down. Yeah.
So it generally comes in on live rock, Cheeto algae, Kato, apparently, and what's the other one? And frags. So live rock you can avoid by either not using live rock in the first place or using dry live rock, because it's not going to survive on. It's not going to come back from zombie life. And Kato, I don't know. I've had Kato with aptasia on it before, but I don't know if that's what brought it in. But maybe then just don't run a refugium, because there are plenty of other ways. Just get a skimmer. So you could just avoid that. And also every now and then I'll see it on a frag plug. So actually I put a fungia frag from my main tank into my cade 6 months ago, and a couple of days later I saw a tiny little aptasia on the frag plug, and I was like, get that out straight away. So I took it out, put it back in the main tank, and that was when I had my Moorish idol, because I started pecking at it, little bastard. It's been a good few months, and there's no outbreak, so I avoided the outbreak there. But you should inspect frags carefully, because no matter where you get them from, I'm sure people like yourself, Ryan, take good care to get rid of aptasia. If one sneaks through, you can't phone the shop and say, "Can you come and get rid of all the aptasia in my tank, please?"
I say that all the corals should be dipped, and they should, I inspect all the corals before they go out. But I do everything I can, but there is no guarantees, and it's the same with absolutely everyone. No shop can guarantee you no pests.
No. And so even if you're buying them from a shop, it's probably because the shops won't inspect them like you do. You're actually picking it up to pack it off. So always inspect it. One, when it's in the shop, and two, absolutely when you get it home. But you still might miss it, because sometimes the aptasia are tiny. So
like the other. Because imagine this. So imagine because aptasia can grow back from basically nothing. Like it can be like literally just cells and grow back from. So imagine if there was an aptasia in the coral farm, for example. One of the copans came along and ate it. So you cannot see anything there. There's nothing there, but there's just something, like just a few cells. That is how they get passed on. So once in your tank, it's virtually impossible to get it out. And I can assure you, every single fish shop and every single coral seller will have had it. Well, probably has had it at some point. Yeah. And that means it's probably in their tank, especially if they've been going for years.
Yeah. So if you see an aptasia, just don't buy that coral.
Yeah, don't buy it. Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you should avoid buying corals from the shop full stop, because aptasia happens. but yeah, so there's the avoidance is the first step, but I tried to avoid it and it didn't work.
I avoided it for 12 years.
I know, it's crazy.
12 years, I didn't have a single aptasia, because I did. Look, to be fair, I did get aptasia once in that system. It was just it came in on a rock or something, and I just literally cut the rock in half, threw it away, and then like with your tank, there was never an outbreak.
Yeah, So there you go. Try avoiding it, but it'll probably Belly's going to get you. Do you remember that advert?
Yeah, I
Belly's
do.
gonna get you.
Yeah,
It'll find you.
I think it got me since then.
Yeah. Number 2, manual removal. This is overrated when it comes to aptasia. Generally, manual removal of most pests is a really good way of doing it. Just pull it out. But aptasia, the problem with that is if you see, like with the frag that I put in the cage, if you see it, great, pull the frag plug out, job done. But if it's on your rock, even if you could pull the rock out and if it was on a small piece of rock and throw it away, or you had to pull the whole rock out, chip a bit off and throw it away, if you can see that one bit, pulling it out is not going to get rid of the aptasia, because that is not the only piece of aptasia in your tank. It's the only piece you can see. So
Possibly.
Almost certainly, I would
Possibly. Say. There has to be only one at some point.
This is true, but the chances are that you catch it and the first time you see it is done. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if you can do it, then remove it. I just think if you can see one, manually removing it probably isn't going to be the end of your problem. But absolutely give it a crack.
If you can see like 5 of them, then you've got a bigger problem than
different
but if it's just one that's coming on a frag plug and you can cut it off.
Totally. Yeah, completely. If it's but the chances are if there's a few, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Then we've got the chemical solutions. Okay, so there are things like some people use putty to cover over aptasias, and I've done that before. The problem with that is, so the idea is you completely plaster it in putty, reef safe putty, so it doesn't get any light, doesn't get any food, and it'll just die. But the problem with that is the chances are if you putty over it, it will just pop out the side. It'll find another place to pop out of the rockwork, and they find ways of sneaking out. So that's worth a shot, but for me, that's one of the most optimistic methods.
So I've never done it that way. The next thing I'm assuming you're going to say is with regards to some sort of injecting it.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's do that one first, because I actually do. I wonder if that actually works. So
what? So the things I've got on my list are things like Aptasia X, Joe's Juice, Calc Paste, which is a DIY one people talk about all the time, and then I've got another one. Is it Polyp Lab? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
And I've got and then the other one that people talk about quite a lot is there's a pun. I can't remember what it is, but it's I can't remember. Anyway,
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it either.
Yeah, F-aptasia. That's it. F-aptasia.
Yeah.
But they're all basically the same. I'm sure they're made of different stuff. Actually, Aptasia X is it calcium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide? It's a hydroxide of some kind.
Yeah.
So a lot of them will be that kind of thing. I think Joe's juice might be lemon juice. I might be making that up. But some people suggest to use
or boiling water as well as some.
I've done that before. I had one on a frag rack in my tank. So I pulled the frag rack out, boiled the kettle, poured it on it, put the frag rack outside for 2 days, and then put it back in. But the problem with boiling water is it's fine if it's just on a small frag rack. This was like a 3-inch frag rack.
Yeah.
If it's on a piece of rock, you do not want to be boiling live rock, because what if it's got polythoas or
Yeah.
you could kill your family. Worst case scenario.
just casual.
It's unlikely, but you don't ever want to put boiling water on live rock ever. Full stop.
The main reason people have done that is because they have heard of a saying. It's called cooking rock, isn't it? And they think that
really?
Means
so people think literally I need to boil it.
That means
water.
Put it on your hob and boil it. But it's not.
Cooking
rock is obviously when you put it in a dark space, isn't it? And for a month.
Yeah, you seed it with bacteria.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd not really thought about that.
The thing that I wonder with regards to if it works, people have said that aptasia, when stressed, releases more aptasia. I don't know. This is like something that is repeated all the time.
Yeah.
Is there any truth in that, or is that something that we're just told and then we believe?
I've never seen anyone prove it, but I do I believe it? I think I probably do believe it. It's certainly, if it's not a fact, it's very plausible.
Yeah.
Because they do pop up in different places, so they must be able to breed that way. Whether actually feeding it Aptasia X or whatever triggers that
Yeah.
is another matter. I don't know if that's been proved, but it's one of those things. It's like a hobby fact.
Yes.
The hobby thinks it's a fact, so
But
therefore
no
it's a
one's
fact.
ever questioned it.
No. But to be fair, there's plenty of times when that's happened. And I actually, on my current tank, I tried the Polyp Lab one. Was it Polyp Lab? I'm sure it was. And it might not be that one. And I tried Aptasia X, and it has got worse since then. It doesn't mean it's because of that.
Yeah.
But in my previous tank, in my Red Sea tank, it was in this one little patch, and it didn't ever spread. It was spreading in this one patch, but it didn't spread elsewhere. And then I got a couple of and it ate it. Whereas on my current tank, it's not. It started as one patch, and now it's spread all over the place. So, is it possible that injecting it did that? Yeah. Is it possible that happened anyway? Yeah.
I don't know
But
if the inappropriate reefer still has. He had one massive one, and it didn't spread. I think it didn't spread anywhere else, but just one massive one.
okay.
I don't know when I saw that or how long ago that was or anything. But someone says believe it, Ryan.
I believe it, Ryan. I think upon death they go into some survival mode and release spores or something. See, that's the thing. It's perfectly plausible. NT Labs, that's the one. That's the one I've got. But yeah, so I think it's entirely plausible, and it's I don't know. But whatever. The point is, anything that you inject, that they do work. They do kill the aptasia, and they will either, you might have to, if they're big, you might have to give it a few doses over a few days, but it definitely does wipe them out for sure. But if you've got, like in my situation, there's dozens of them, and they're in places. There are some big ones that I cannot reach, and there are plenty of small ones that I could reach, but I'd be there all day, and I'd still miss half of them. So it's like, and you need to read the instructions because it tells you how much of the stuff to use, and it's more than you would think. So those the chemical treatments, they're great to a degree, but it's possible that they could make it worse, because it's possible that triggers the stuff spreading. And even if it doesn't, you're really unlikely to get everything, because there'll be one out of the way that you can't see, or one that you can't reach. And even then you might have to go back and do it every day for like 3 weeks, and people aren't likely to do that. So I've used that before when I got my Bergia nudies. I bought some of that stuff and I tried to get the big ones first. The idea being, knock some of them back so the Bergias can come in and do some munching. But I don't think they're necessarily a great idea if you're just going to treat with some kind of chemical. But I wouldn't say no, don't ever use chemical treatments. I think they're okay. The one I had that was, let me just make sure it is NT Labs. Anti-aptasia. I'm sure that's it. Yeah. Mine was NT Labs Anti-aptasia. The one thing, so that's definitely a different. Well, I say definitely. That's a very different consistency to Aptasia X. So it's like a liquid. It's like a kind of, like if you told me it was lemon juice, I'd believe you. It's that sort of liquid. Whereas Aptasia X is like a whipped cream, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the NT Lab stuff, that stunks. Like, you turn all your flow off, of course, but you can see it, so it separates from the water, but it moved around a little bit still, and it almost stripped one of my chalices. Whereas I've never had that with Aptasia X, so I think it's a bit more spicy. So you've got to be a little bit careful. And that, to be honest, that put me off, because it's like most of these were by corals. So for me, I don't want to risk wiping out my corals. But either way, those methods are, I'm sure there'll be people who have used them and it's been effective and it's done it. But I think it's not likely to be the end of your problem.
I totally agree. I think the only thing that's ever wiped out a serious, more than 5, the only thing that's ever wiped out Aptasia that I've ever seen to work is a predator of some sort.
There's one more thing before predators.
Okay, I thought that was the last one.
No. So the predators is next up, but first is wands or zappers. So you get
I've never
the lasers. Like there's a Mahano wand. I'm sure there's another kind of laser, and then there's the what's it called? It was a ITC. I can't remember what it's called. It was the same company who makes the Parwise, that bar meter.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called. But the problem with those is very similar to other issues. Is it sounds like for a start, I'm not putting a bloody laser in my house, and if it can kill an animal, even something as basic as an Aptasia anemone, I don't want to be waving that around anywhere. Yeah. I'm sure it's not going to burn my cat in half or whatever, but still,
your cat could chase it.
Yeah, exactly.
Razor
Yeah,
thin.
I've just got an image of James Bond in Goldfinger. Sorry, do you expect me to talk? No,
Yeah.
Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. But yeah, so I just don't like the idea of that. They're also very expensive,
Yeah.
and are you going to get all of your apps? If you've only got one aptasia, fantastic, knock yourself out. But if you've got lots, you're not going to be able to do it. And the one from Parwise or whatever they're called, ITC,
Reef
it's that
delete.
Reef Delete. That's the one.
Yeah.
Thank you,
It
Charles.
wasn't me. Yeah, Charles.
Yeah. You have to hold it next to it for like 60 seconds or something, and then go back the next day and do it the same again. And it's like, again, that's the same issue as the chemical treatments. It works, but you've got to do it over and over again. And if there's one that's out of the way that you can't reach, it'll come back. So, and that means that that's your life now, is every month, 6 months,
Yeah.
whatever, you're going in zapping stuff, which, no one's about that. So those are all the methods that do work, but that I don't really like to use.
Yeah.
And now we talk about predators.
Predators.
Which is the real way. So
I'm like, all of this was about a product, so this has been hard for me to maintain my attention.
I know. Yeah. But yeah. So, but predators is really the answer to any pest.
Yeah.
But there's problems with the predators. So, for example, Bergia nudibranchs, which is what I've started with.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've got no fish in my tank, so it's fine. They have. I spoke to someone before. He said that he saw a Bergia nudibranch getting eaten by an aptasia, which is hilarious. But I think I would guess you're unlikely to have all of your Bergias eaten by aptasia.
Yeah.
But if you've got no fish in there or no fish that eat them, like wrasses, great, really good solution. Possibly the perfect solution. I think they go quite slowly, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But possibly the perfect solution. But the problem is, and one of the members mentioned earlier, when they've gone around and munched all the aptasia, they are physically, biologically incapable of eating anything else. So you can't just feed them mysis or pellets. They will die. So when they've found everything they can, they will die. And when they all die, it will turn out that they missed a couple of aptasia, as this guy said, and then they come back.
I think it's impossible to eradicate it. If it's like, if you have an infestation, if you get rid of it, it's impossible to eradicate.
I agree. But the other predators are potentially better options. Peppermint shrimp, number one. I have had success with them in the past.
Yeah.
But I also had one. The last one I got ate my torch in front of me, like sliced it up in front of me. I managed to get a video of it. That's how certain I am that it was doing it. And they have been known to go for LPS corals. And that puts me off because they're difficult to catch. Like a fish, I'm pretty confident I can catch more or less any fish within reason. A shrimp.
Whoa! I've seen you try and catch fish.
I know, but I mean,
that was with all the rock out.
Yeah, half empty tank, but with a fish trap. But peppermint shrimp, I think they're probably one of the best options, to be honest, because they won't when the nudies, not the nudies, when the aptasia is gone, they can still eat other stuff, so they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I'm always nervous about. I've kept them with corals and they haven't eaten corals, but other times they've pecked at corals, and I don't like that. They're difficult to catch.
Yeah.
And I've seen plenty of people say, "Oh, I bought 5 of them, and they only ate the small ones, or they didn't touch anything. Oh, it's been 6 months and they've not touched anything." And this is the other problem with predators, is that you'll find loads of time. Someone will be like, "Yeah, it wiped out everything in a day," and then the next person will be like, "Well, I've had them in there for 2 years now and they haven't touched them."
Yeah.
And the
other
thing,
identification of the correct shrimp, I think, is also where people go wrong.
Yeah, it's true. But for the other predators we're in Ryan's bailiwick, and I'm going to list off the fish, right? So we've got, and there are others as well, but I think these are probably the ones that come up most often. Yeah. Aptasia eating filefish, also known as a coral eating filefish. Copper-banded butterfly.
Yeah.
Also known as an acan eating butterfly.
Raccoon
butterfly.
Yeah, true.
Also known as a coral eating butterfly. Molly Miller Blenny.
I did not know that. I didn't know that.
Supposedly. I think Inappropriate Reefer had one that ate aptasia. But again, I think they're a risk with LPS, and you don't get many people reporting success with them. But it does happen, and enough that it's like I don't think it's just hearsay.
I didn't know that blennies could be like. I know of one blenny which does eat coral, which is like a leopard blenny. But I didn't know blennies could be like. I never kept blennies, so I didn't know that
Yeah.
they could
That's
be
the thing.
different
This
with
is
coral.
this is not my experiences. This is supposedly that happens. And the
Yeah.
final one, and you'll come up with others, but the final one on my list is the Australian stripey, which is
They'll be literally like basically any butterfly fish will
yeah.
eat them. It's just they'll eat your corals.
So I had pyramid butterfly fish in a tank a while ago,
Yeah.
and this was I think it was my second tank. It was a long time ago, and I put them in, and as soon as I put them in, one of them went for an aptasia, and I was like, oh, like in front of me, it was like the best thing ever. Like it had been in for seconds, and it was trying to get aptasia. Like, oh my god, massive bonus because I hadn't put them in there for that. But then after that, he was like, that's disgusting. And he told his mates it was disgusting, and they didn't ever touch it. But I only had them for 6 months, so maybe. And actually, so they were fine with corals in my tank, but the person I sold them to said they started wiping out his LPS corals. So, so yeah, they are.
I think that long-nosed butterflies might be an option for people. I think they are. I actually wonder if long-nosed butterflies will be the best option of all the options available, because they are. So copperbands, in my opinion, are the best. But I've never had a long nose. But long nose have a better survival rate than copperbands.
So if that's the case, why don't you use yellow long nose instead of?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it, but one of my customers bought one the other day, and I was like, that might actually work. So I don't know. I don't know if they eat aptasia as well as copperbands do.
I think this is fake news. If I'm honest.
Really?
So yeah, we had this conversation last week or the week before.
What, me and you?
Yeah, on the live stream.
Did we? I don't remember any of this.
Briefly anyway. I'm not convinced that's they're effective, because if they were effective, they're still actually quite finicky. They're actually still quite difficult to keep.
Yeah.
To get feeding, but they're not as bad as copperbands. I can see you googling, and so I think that if they were as effective, you'd know about it. And I'm on a thread from 2018 from Reef to Reef.
Oh, we're on the same thread, yeah.
Yeah, the first person says, nope, I had a few, none of them did. Second person says, add me to the nope list.
Okay, maybe not then.
Please do not buy fish or shrimp to get rid of aptasia, says the next person. But yeah, but there are certain butterflies. Raccoon butterflies are notorious for it, but they will eat your corals for a fact. So there are certain butterflies that will go for corals, and I think probably a copperband is the best answer. But and actually, before we get onto the copperband, so I've had two aptasia eating filefish before. One of them ate LPS and didn't touch the aptasia. It was in the same tank as the pyramid butterflies actually, and the other one pecked at my SPS polyps, weirdly, my Montes, and didn't touch the aptasia.
Yeah.
And because they were doing that, I pulled them out. If I'd have left them in there for 6 months, maybe they would have got a taste for aptasia, because they do. That is a fact. They do eat aptasia. And there are plenty of people who will report that. But they also, I think they're highly likely to eat corals at some point.
I was always under the impression that basically all butterfly fish will eat them, but obviously not. I don't know. I think I just assume that because you assume that butterflies eat coral, so why wouldn't they eat it?
Yeah.
And I know it's not coral.
I think but same thing. Potato. But I think a lot of butterflies do. But just
some angels eat them, I believe, as well. Like some of the big angel fish, not the little ones.
Like emperors or queens or
things like that.
Okay.
But,
but the problem with the aptasia eating filefish, for example, they're probably going to at least peck at your corals.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people. There are still people out there who say no, it's never touched corals. But also, the worst part is when you put a fish like that in, sometimes they don't eat the bloody aptasia. It's like, can you just at least, if you're going to eat my prized acan that cost me 400 quid, could you at least eat the aptasia as well? And this is a problem with all of these fish. Even copperbands, sometimes you'll have a copperband in your tank for 6 months, it won't do anything. It'll just leave the aptasia alone. So they're not guaranteed. I think copperbands are likely to most of the time if you have it long enough, but it's not guaranteed. And the other problem with fish is once the same as all these other methods, and the nudibranchs is a really good example as well. Once they've demolished everything, then you've got to keep that fish in. And if it starts turning to eating your corals, you're going to want to take it out. And when you take it out, you'll suddenly realise, oh, I've got aptasia that I didn't realise I had.
When you say eat your corals, so on Monday I went and saw an unbelievable fish tank, which I thought was just like literally impossible to do. So I came to the realization that although fish will eat some corals, if a fish is doing a job, I'd rather take the coral out they was eating.
Yeah.
I think that's what that tank did.
Was this tank an average size tank?
No. Why does that matter? Why does it make a difference?
Because there's so much. There's because if copper banded butterflies,
only a casual 5 meters.
Yeah, exactly. If copper banded butterflies ate corals, you'd have no corals in the wild. Yeah, I mean, it's a slight exaggeration, but like in a big enough tank, the pecking can be split out. But that would still make me nervous personally. But they won't always eat your corals. Not all copper bands will eat corals. And actually, I had on my last tank when my copper band died after about 3 years. There was aptasia in the weir box, but I never saw the stuff come back after the copper band died. Never came back. So it was in the weir box, but I never saw it again in the display tank. So it's not impossible actually that it can wipe out enough. And maybe if I'd have kept the tank for another 2 years, it would have come back. But it's not impossible. Yeah. But I just think I think in most cases, once the fish has done his business, as it were, and if you decide to remove it, you're in trouble. If you leave it in forever, happy days.
Yeah,
it'll probably never come back. But so that's why I think fish are the predator, and particularly a fish, probably a copper band are the best solution. But they're very finicky to keep and very difficult to keep. So there's a good chance you buy one, you won't be able to keep it. But you have to keep it in your tank as well, because if you remove it, you're running the risk of the stuff coming back.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is the Aptasia chat. App chat. 1:16:06. So now, the news. There's just so much news. So we need to crack on now. I take it you didn't have anything else to say about Aiptasia?
No.
If I'm honest.
I'm more interested in the news, to be honest, because you are my source of news. So I know what's going on based on these live streams.
Well, I'm glad I'm your source of news, because there is actually a new source of news. And this is the first item, is there's a new website called reefkeepingnews.com, which I'm going to show you now. And this is from Jeremy Gay. It's Jeremy Gay's website.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Jeremy Gay. You can find Reef Keeping News on Instagram as well. And this basically, I'm going to close that down because I don't want to show you all the stories, because half of, or probably about a third of the stuff today is from this website. But this is all the articles. They're the same. They're written the same way that Reef Builders articles were until recently, because Jeremy used to write for Reef Builders. So this is
it's basically a competitor of Reef Builders, I'm assuming.
Kind of, yeah. It's like a British version, but they cover worldwide events. So if you're in the States, you want to check out reefkeepingnews.com. It's really good. And there's a ton of, he's been busy. He's been doing a lot of work. There's a ton of stuff on there already. And I think it's only been running a month. Maybe it's been a little bit more than that. The oldest article I can see is 14th of November. So it's really good. Oh, also, he's just said, join me at 8 p.m. on the Reefers Network podcast, and that was on the 15th of November. That was another thing I meant to mention. There's another live stream / podcast. I think it's just a live stream at the moment, called the Reefers Network. I believe it's on a Sunday morning on UK time, 10 a.m., something like that. So check out the Reefers Network if you want more live streams. But yeah, it's a reefkeepingnews.com is the website. It's really good. There's loads of stuff on there. I would thoroughly recommend checking it out. I think they've got a page on Facebook as well. I think I subscribed to that the other day. So that's your first bit of news. And I'm actually going to run through a load of stuff on this website now. So firstly, this is interesting. What material, if you were going to put a cover on your tank, Ryan, what material would you make it out of?
Nothing, because I would never make it. But some sort of like that plastic. But is it like poly? Yeah.
You'd want it made of polycarbonate or plastic or something. Yeah. Would you want one made out of steel?
No.
Well, then you should not buy the Reef Guard aquarium cover. However, so
this is actual steel.
Actual steel, but it's not rusting steel. It's from 316 stainless steel, which supposedly is so this is the website says, and this is reefkeepingnews.com, says it's the only steel grade that is truly rust resistant in salt water, and the only steel we would allow near our tanks.
Resistant is a very interesting word.
Truly rust resistant. Basically, I don't think this is going to rust, is what they're saying. It's basically like it's titanium but cheaper and easier to work with. So I think that looks really interesting. I think they might. Metal stuff generally looks cool. You're not. So
I don't want anything metal anywhere near my tank. And that's like, it's an interesting route to go. To look, anyone who starts a business or anything, like, fair play to them. So I don't want to say bad things. It's just, for me, it's even if I'm told this is 100% never going to be a problem, it's almost the fact because it's metal, it's so ingrained in you that you don't have metal near your tank. Yeah,
this is very true. And I've removed screws from cabinets before that had gone rusty.
Yeah.
Just in case they were dripping rust in. But from what I can understand, 316 stainless steel isn't going to rust in salt water. And it would look a stainless steel top, I think potentially looks pretty cool. And they're not that expensive, actually. So the prices listed here are from 180 quid for a Red Sea Max Nano to 567 quid for a Red Sea Reefer Peninsula 950, which is bigger than my tank. And I know that's
again, because how does the light go through?
It's the same. It's got like a honeycomb mesh.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see now.
So it's the same as all others, really. And because it's silver, not like powder coat, I think it would look really cool if it was powder coated in black. But maybe that would stop light getting through. But actually, so 500 quid obviously for an aquarium cover is a lot of money. But that's cheaper than a polycarbonate for a 6-foot tank.
I don't see it. I don't see the big being that. I don't see. Let's put it this way: if I said to you, "Do you think those are going to replace like the plastic ones?" Do you think that is likely to happen? Is this like the new thing where everyone has them?
No, I think it's a different option, and I like that it exists. But there you go. Look, that's the point of this news: is that I tell you about stuff that you didn't know about.
No, I think even if it's mainly getting around people's mentality of not having metal near your tank is going to be their biggest struggle. That he's gone silent because he's just ordering another beer probably from his.
I asked 20 minutes ago, for God's sake.
Oh, you asked 20 minutes ago. It's not been delivered.
I know. But no, you're quite right, and it won't be for a lot of people, but it's another option that exists. So
yeah.
Next up is hang on, that's it. Yeah, do you remember a while ago on this very live stream we talked about handfish, which was a critically endangered fish in Australia?
Apparently, I don't remember anything that happens on any of these lives. I know what you're going to talk about because they've bred them, haven't they? I've seen that.
Correct. Yeah, they've managed to breed them in captivity, and they have tripled. Was it tripled? I think they've tripled the world's. In fact, so here we go. There is currently known only from two small patches. So there's two small patches in the reef where these exist, and it's thought the total population in the world is 100 adults, and they've now bred 232. So there's now 3 times as many as there were 6 months ago or whatever.
Have you seen the adults? They're completely different.
They're red, aren't they?
Yeah, they're bright red.
Yeah, they're not on this article, but I remember them from before. They're weird. They're kind of like a frogfish kind of thing, and they have like almost literal hands that they walk along with.
Did it say why they're so endangered?
I think it was to do with habitat. I don't think this did, but before, I'm sure that the habitat was being taken away for some reason.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember 6 months ago or whenever it was. So, but it's cool. There's no news on where you can buy a handfish. So I'm guessing it's not for the aquarium trade, but
yeah.
But anyway, it's good news for the environment. It's been a little while since we've had any news about boring gobies, Ryan, but I've got good news for you.
I've got an exciting goby this time.
2 more. No. There's 2 more brown gobies.
Nice.
These 2 guys, they're coral gobies, so it's like a yellow clown goby.
Yeah.
But boring. But actually, that one's not too bad. This one, that's like the green clown goby. But
they don't have great success rate, I don't think, in captivity. No, okay. I think they're often they have feeding issues. I think where they starve because they get really, really thin.
Really? So I had one in the same tank. I had the pyramid butterflies, and he just started stripping the base of my corals, which is what they do, because they nest. So, there you go. There's more boring,
More brown gobies in the world
that no one's going to buy. But it's still cool, Bad news. There's a shop called Reef Passion in Tavistock, Dane Tevy, as they say in Devon, which is down in Devon, and it's shut. Today, in fact, was its last day. And we've got 3 weeks of news backed up. It was announced early, but it's a 3-year-old. It's only been running for 3 years. Said, we're devastated after making this announcement today, but all good things must come to an end. We've enjoyed our time chatting fishing corals to you all, and we'll miss many of your regular visitors and chats. Unfortunately, due to rising costs, we can no longer continue. So, and this is what the shop looked like.
Was this the one where it had the coral trays were in the middle and there's lots of space around them?
I was just thinking that it looks different, but it could be that place as well.
I think that is that place.
It might be, but yeah,
You're in trouble with Mr. Reef Dork because you've still not got your beer.
My bet is that the cat's on her lap, and so she can't move.
I see.
Because when a cat's on your lap, you're incapacitated, basically.
Oh, I see. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it is, I'm afraid. But yeah, what else was I going to say? Where's your beer? Very poor service.
Yeah, that's why I
agree,
said
Charles. Yeah. So there we go. So there's another shop, unfortunately, closing. There was another thing that I wanted to.
I want to know what the difference between. It could purely be location. Like if you're near London, you've got a far higher chance of success than although you will have higher rent. But why are some? Because they all have the same costs. Do you see what I mean? So why did that shop struggle compared to Moss End? But that could be a location thing.
Well, I mean, for a start, Moss End had been up for years, and it's run by people who really know their stuff. I'm not saying this guy didn't, but that would be money for 3 years, newly established. It's you're not known as well. I don't know what the market for reefing is like in Devon. Maybe it's less. Maybe they know. I don't know. But it's. I think the point. So Ed talked last week about how difficult it is with all the costs going up and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's difficult for everybody. Yeah. And there are people who are better placed to cope with it than others. And if you've only been running a few years, you probably don't have that buffer behind you of like a load of cash that you've made that you can survive a tough time. So maybe it takes less to wipe out a new shop. I don't know. There's a new filter, Ryan.
Oh, very exciting.
Really exciting. And they actually, so this is, I'd normally ignore this sort of thing, but I thought it was really cool. And I can't find the video again. It's called the TMC Reef Bioreact. It's described as a multi-purpose filter, but it's really, I think it's a bio pellet filter, right? And the reason that this caught my eye, and I can't find the video, but this, you can see what it does. So the bio pellets are in there. There's a pump on the left and it spins it. It constantly and spinning shit is cool. Fact.
Okay, yeah.
And I gutted I couldn't find the video because it was like mesmerizing watching it spin. I've never used bio pellets, to be fair. But if you do, or if you can think of another use for it, there is now a TMC Reef what's it called? Reef Bioreact 2 that spins stuff. You could probably use that for as a Cheeto reactor if you put a light next to it, but
they're into the spinning stuff at the moment because they bought those crystal tanks out, didn't they? Either last year or this year.
Indeed,
this year they bought them, yeah.
You wouldn't want to put a jellyfish in that, though.
That's what I was thinking.
Monsoon Aquatics. This is how old. This is weeks ago. This one is. Monsoon Aquatics in Australia. It's near Brisbane. I say near Brisbane. It's not a million miles from Brisbane. That's the nearest big city I could find. They are doing. It's in near Bundaberg Port, if you know where that is. I do not.
Near Brisbane's where I used to live. I might see if I can get a job there. Yeah,
cool. Well, you can do tours. They're opening to the public. Monsoon Aquatics will do tours. That would be so. Monsoon is one of the places that got a government grant for breeding corals, and they do what's it called? What's that called? Scullies, all that sort of stuff. Looks like an amazing place. And so if you're anywhere near Brisbane or Ponteberg, what's it called? Bundaberg Port, that would be well worth checking out. A tour of that. I don't know. Did it say the costs or whether it was free? I can't remember. They were showing schools around, so I don't know if it might even be free, to be fair. But if I was anywhere near Brisbane, I would be there in a heartbeat.
I didn't know it was near Brisbane.
I just looked it up. I looked it up on a map because I'd never heard of Bundaberg Port. But there you go. So you are not near Brisbane, so you cannot go there. There is a new Facebook group page, Ryan, that's very exciting.
Okay.
Reef Builders have set up a new Facebook page. I didn't have the foresight to load it, which I've just realised, so I can't show you it.
Yeah.
But there's a Facebook page for Reef Builders, which is basically an extension of all the stuff they do on their main website, but for people who like Facebook.
Very exciting.
It's not very exciting, but it's noteworthy.
It's still a form of news.
It is indeed, and Reef Builders is generally a good place to visit anyway. And reefbuilders.com is probably less likely to get traffic because you've got to go to that website, whereas people are on Facebook all day, so maybe more people discover it that way. But anyway, there's a new Facebook page, Reef Builders, that you can go and check out after the stream. Finding Dory, Ryan.
Yeah.
So Dory has been found for the first time in Vietnamese waters. Didn't know that they weren't. Well, apparently not. But blue hippotangs, also known as pallet surgeonfish. I've never heard them called a pallet surgeonfish. Have you?
No.
There you go. But they've been found in Vietnamese water.
What, so naturally? How many? Well, is it like 100 or is it like 1?
There are 2 in this photo. So it's at least 2.
Yeah.
And they're not very big.
To make a few more.
It's true. But yeah, and they've been found at a depth of 4.5 meters near some aquapora.
I just wonder if someone's released them, which is how things usually get around, and if we're about to have a plague of blue tank, regal tanks. That's what I was thinking.
Regal tanks, yeah.
Because they have so many different names. People call them hippo tangs. I'm not sure why they have that name.
Like, isn't it Hippopus acantharus? Is that their? What's their? I'm sure it's in their name.
Oh, maybe that's it then. I never thought about that.
I'm sure hippo comes from their Latin name, hippo tang. I'm going to look it up now. Oh god, it's not good. Here we go. Oh, this is going to take ages. Regal tang. Here we go. Paracantharus hepatus. Hippo hepa.
I mean, you're stretching it. You're stretching there.
This is the news that I wanted to talk about weeks ago. You're going to go to prison, Ryan.
Nice. I wouldn't survive in prison.
You wouldn't survive 2 seconds. No, I don't think I would either. I'd go in there and obviously pick on the biggest bloke there, just like knock him out, and then everyone would respect me. So
we both saw the Facebook page where there was a poll with regards to who would win in a fight between me and you, and for some reason everyone picked me, even though Alex is so much bigger than I am.
Not sure I'm that much bigger.
I was described as scrappy.
Scrappy.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Anyway. This is from Ultramarine. Oh, more Ultramarine news as well. So AWATA, which is the Ornamental Aquatic Trade Association in the UK, of which Jeremy Gay is now a part, by the way, have issued a new guide that clarifies the legal framework regarding the use of antibiotics for treating fish corals and other invertebrates. And basically, it's got a picture of erythromycin on here, which is one of the treatments I've heard about. Yeah. Basically, it's illegal to use it. You can only get these in the UK anyway. You can only get this stuff if it's prescribed by a vet, and they can't prescribe it prophylactically. So a vet can't prescribe you whatever antibiotics to use as quarantine tanks.
Yeah, why
technically,
not?
Because it's illegal.
I don't know. Why can't they prescribe it? As in before you get the fish?
You can get a fish. No, if you've got a fish that has a disease.
Yeah.
And a vet says this antibiotic will cure that disease, then technically no one's going to do this.
I can do this. One of my customers is a vet, so I actually can do this.
I mean, there you go. So if you ever have a fish that gets a disease, you can go to a vet, and if the vet thinks that this antibiotic will treat that disease, he can prescribe you that medication. Okay. That's basically the only circumstance when it can happen. You shouldn't be buying it online. Basically, if you're buying it online, you're in murky waters, even if you're buying it from America or whatever. You shouldn't be able to get it any other way, basically. So I think the message of this really is what they're trying to say is, look, just don't do it, okay? Because there's been a lot more talk in the last 6 months of various antibiotic treatments that maybe more than 6 months ago, certainly in the States, and that filters over here, whereas we've talked about it before, I'm sure. And other people talk about getting hold of it, and it's like, what I think this is basically AWATA just trying to say, just don't do it in the UK. Just do not do it, okay? Because you're going to go to prison. So there you go. And it can't be prescribed for routine use either. We're so restrictive over here. Probably a good thing, but still. Reef Dork news. So a
Exciting.
couple of weeks ago, well, not really. A
Okay.
couple of weeks ago, and this is old news. A couple
You're
of
really
weeks ago,
selling it to us.
no, it is exciting, really exciting. In fact,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, and I've since had another comment. I had a comment on. So every now and then on a YouTube channel I watch, usually with a fair amount of subscribers, you'll see a comment. So if you post a comment, someone will reply to that comment, and it will have the same avatar as the YouTuber, but if you look closely, it's a different name. And it's how they scam you, and they say, "Hey, you've won a prize. Just send me 50 quid."
Yeah.
Whatever. And that's how people get scammed. If you ever see that on my channel, it's a scam. I will never ask you to pay me money. For if you
What?
like it.
It's all that money I sent you.
I know, yeah. Like if I'm selling something on Ultimate Reef, for example, I sold a camera. I'd mentioned it on, if it's that and you can see me talking, fair enough. But I will never ask you if I do a giveaway. I won't ask you to pay. I won't even ask you to pay for postage. I won't ask you to pay anything. So don't ever try to give me money by clicking on a link and sending it. If you ever see that, it's not me. But the thing I did see that was that, and I've never had those comments, but what I have seen twice now is a crypto scam, basically. And what happens is someone will comment and say, "Hey, have you heard of this new crypto coin?"
Yeah.
And I like the first time I saw it, I was like, "What the hell are you talking about that?" And then you click on the comment, and within 3 seconds later, someone else has replied saying, "Oh, that sounds amazing. My brother invested it and made £2 million." And then someone, it's obviously like all bots or all fake accounts or whatever they are, So if you ever see any of that, and I've had a second comment along those lines as well in the last few days that I've deleted them both and blocked them both. I don't like anything crypto. I work in fraud and scams that's my profession. And I see a lot of scams involved in crypto. So I'm extremely skeptical of cryptocurrencies. So if you ever see anything on the channel about cryptocurrencies in a comment or whatever, it's a scam. And if you ever see me talking about it, ask me if I'm scamming you, because it's just every now and then you see YouTubers setting up some kind of coin, crypto coin, and scamming people. So just don't ever, if you ever see anything cryptocurrency related from me, it's a scam. Just assume it's a scam and ignore it and move away. I've never seen anyone get scammed on as a result of anything on any reefing channel. So I think it's pretty unlikely, but I thought it was worth mentioning. There is a new edition of Ultramarine out, Ryan, which is a magazine I subscribe to. This is not a paid promotion. I buy this with my own money because I'm such a hero. Every 3 months. It's quarterly. £4.15. I subscribe to this. I can't remember how much it costs. It's a bit cheaper, but there's a new edition that's out, and you'll be able to get this in some good reefing shops. And the thing that I wanted to say was there was some news that came out of Ultramarine magazine, which is brilliant. Are you ready, Ryan?
I'm ready.
There's a new auto top off.
You're killing me here.
It's from DD.
Yeah.
And it comes with, so there's the main sensor is, I think the main sensor is the optical one here. And then it's got a backup sensor that's a float valve. And then it's got a leak detector as well. So it will tell you if there's ever a problem.
Is the information in that magazine not normally out of date by the time you got it if it's 3 months?
To be honest, it's mostly, so there's a really nice tank in here from a guy, they call him Krusty. Dan Thomas his name is, and I think it's Krusty the Clownfish on Ultimate Reef. So it's normally things like it'll be news stories that are, so for example, Hawaiian Reef Survey reveals rare endemic angelfish and masked angelfish. That's just interesting. There's this guy's tank that's really cool.
So it's stuff that doesn't really go out of date. It's not like this is what happened last week.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a new shop that's opened called iReef in Rochdale. There's loads of stuff in here. So, I mean, if you picked up a magazine from 5 years ago, it's out of date. But 3 months ago, it's fine. And I'm trying to find this guy's tank. Here we go. Yeah, so this is guy, Krusty the Clownfish. I'm sure he's on Ultimate Reef. I'm sure I've seen him on Ultimate Reef. But yeah, really nice tank, and it's well worth a read. If you there in the UK, there aren't any other publications that regularly discuss a specialist for marine anyway.
Yeah.
So if you want a magazine, you want that. So that was the news that came out of it. The new DD Auto Top Off is available in January. I've got one, so I don't need it.
No,
I'm not buying it. Two more stories. Yeah, two more stories. Do you want? I'm going to intersperse it with. There's one is equipment, Ryan.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave
Let's
that.
get
to
that one out
last.
of the way to begin with.
You want to get that out of the way? Okay.
Yeah, let's get out of the way.
I'll be quick. You know the company Focustronic.
Yes.
They make the Alcatronic, the Mastertronic, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Auto test.
They also do lights.
They do, yeah. Big. They move around. Yeah. Interesting idea. So they bring out something called the Mastertronic Essentials, which is
I'm reading the
someone
comment.
taking the mickey. Where's the effing beer? I know. Yeah. Hang on, I'm going to shout. Right, there we go. Let's see if that works.
I want to know what you just said when you muted it.
I just said, "Where's my beer?" But yeah, so they bring out a new product called the Tracetronic.
Okay.
That does not test trace elements.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a 12-way dosing pump. This was just on a Parker's Reef video, so I don't have pictures or prices or anything. But it's a 12-way dosing pump, and the idea is, I think they were talking about it working with Triton. So I don't know if you can get it so you put in your results automatically from Triton or whatever. But anyway, it'll dose trace elements for you, and it has 12 dosing heads basically. So if you get a Triton report that says you need to dose 0.5 milliliter of this 3 days in a row, you can just tell it to do that and it'll do it for you. It's for high precision stepper motors, I think.
In like 3 years' time, we'll be looking back going, I remember the days when there was just I think it was 4 head dosing pumps of a sort of like
they were common
ones. Yeah. And now we've got 12 head dosing pumps.
Oh yeah. And that's not even for your main stuff. This is for trace elements.
Yeah.
But there you go. So yeah, there's a Tracetronic 12 head dosing pump coming. No details of price and that sort of stuff. Finally, and this is from Oceanographic magazine, and this is it's a world first, right? And this is actually exciting, and this is good. You should always finish on good news, right?
True. Is this the last one? Then?
It is. Yeah. The world first is the first ever cryogenically frozen coral babies.
It's interesting.
So this is in the Great Barrier Reef, by the way. This is not in the hobby, but there's a team of nerds in Australia, and by the nerds I mean scientists. In October this year there was a coral spawning event. There's coral spawn, I don't know, all the time, regularly, whatever. There was a coral spawning event. A load of science nerds went out, caught all the eggs and jizz, mixed it all together, put it in the freezer.
I think is what they call them, isn't it?
Gametes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Put it in the freezer, mix it all together, put it in the freezer, and then just let it freeze for a couple of months. And now they've taken it back out onto the Barrier Reef, and they've popped egg and sperm bundles into various places in the reef, and there you go, new corals.
And that is interesting.
So, that is interesting because if you're doing if you're propagating corals and putting 500 frags at a time or whatever, like we discovered last week that happens when you buy that's great, but it's it's drop in the ocean. Whereas if you're collecting tens of thousands of eggs and spreading it that way, that has the potential to be relatively effective. Early days, but the fact that they've worked out how to do this properly and it works, or at least in early stages, but it seems to work. They've managed to cryopreserve the gametes and release them. Here is a photo of one of the science nerds.
Yeah, they're at Taronga Zoo.
Do you know Taronga Zoo?
Taronga Zoo is a zoo that's in Sydney. It's an amazing zoo, but I didn't know they had a coral centre there.
It looks like a serious setup, and this guy's name is Dr. Jonathan Daly, and I'm going to work on the assumption that he's a clever bastard.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing this sort of stuff,
and a nerd,
of course, but really impressive actually. I actually, joking aside, I thought this was really cool, and just good news.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It works for I'm assuming everything. It works for humans that want to have children later on, and it works for corals that want to have children later on.
There's a coral in the Barrier Reef going, darling, I don't think we're ready for kids yet, but maybe in the future. Why don't we spaff it out and hope this guy with glasses catches it? Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you, darling. Yeah. On that note, and I realised something about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
What do you think I realised, Ryan?
Not sure. I can't even think of a joke to make for that bit.
Yeah. We didn't do fish of the week or coral of the week yet.
That's true. That is true.
But we do have a fish of the week and a coral.
We do.
Oh, actually, John Wright's come up with a really good idea. I need a beer fridge. That's a brilliant idea. I don't have any space in here, but I'm sure I could put it under a desk or something.
Electric collar. A remote electric collar.
Better, much better. Yeah, a little brush with a button.
And then she'll know. So
yeah,
and then
I could hook it up to Alexa, so it reminds you when you zap it as well. Get a beer.
I think it's like hook up to the mains.
yeah. Cattle prong. Yeah.
The fish of the week we spoke about earlier. I'm going for the Pictus blenny because I just think they're cool, and they're like
cool.
I said they're like blennies in little pinstripe suits.
What if you were giving this one a name? What would you call it? Look at this! I just clicked on a photo, and it's a thread that I posted on Ultimate Reef from 2022.
Did you know that was your photo?
No. It's not my photo, but it's my thread. Yeah, that's hilarious. So in this thread, I said I'm looking at an Ascensus pictus. Oh, look at me using Latin names. I believe any of the comb tooth blennies are a small risk with corals. Has anyone had one that turned rogue? Let's see. I have a pictus as well. A few others haven't had a problem. Different one did something. I have a tail spot blenny. Yeah, so no. But they're so cool and they are cute. Yeah. Well, anyway, sorry. What would you call that fish?
So I have one, and Rachel called it 007 because it looks like it's in a suit.
That's a quality pun. That is.
She also has we also have the multi-bar angels called Finn Diesel because it looks cool.
Another quality pun. Yeah. So, I like that.
I like how she sees something and then she goes, "I'll come back in a couple of hours," and I'll let you know. She's sitting there she's got a notepad out. What can I call it?
Yeah. Phoning her colleagues like, Dave, mate, I've got a question for you. I'll send you a picture. What can you tell us about 007?
Can't tell you anything about it. He hides a lot at the moment in the quarantine tank. He's usually one of the most shy fish in there.
Well, they're tiny, aren't they? Proper tiny.
He's not that small. He's probably about half the size of your little finger. So he's not like tiny. But
I had to look down to see how big my finger is. Then
it was a weird use of measurement, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They're small, 2 centimeters, but yeah, they are small. I have another one which is a gold stripe, which is a gold stripe blenny, which has got which is probably about double the size. I didn't know they were small. I just assume all blennies get to the same size.
Gold streak blenny, is that the same thing?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I think this is the one that I call barrier reef blenny.
It's way nicer it's way nicer than that picture. Like way nicer. I actually prefer that one to the Pictus blenny.
Yeah, okay.
But my only concern is blennies might not like each other.
Oh, of course you've got another one. Yeah.
That's why I got 2 additional ones. Because I thought if you've got 3 of them, it's less likely to be like 1-on-1, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I've never been brave enough to try 2 blennies in a tank. But that's a big old tank and they've got small territories. It's not like they roam like wrasses, is it? They find a spot.
He bites the tank sometimes, the one that's in there at the moment.
But only when the tank swims past him.
Yeah,
his little burrow.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see how they get on.
Yeah, it's them and the angels. I think the angels will be I've had loads of angels before, so I think that they'll be fine. But the blennies, I'm not so sure. But I think there's going to be such chaos on the first day when everything goes in because there's such a wide variety of fish that potentially they'll just go unnoticed. That's my theory. So that's the fish of the week.
It's a good fish of the week. I like that. And blennies are just characters. They're so funny. What else was I going to do? Yeah, coral of the week. What's the Prestige Reef coral of the week?
I've gone for a magic carpet mushroom. And the reason I've picked one of these is because they're just a normal Redactus mushroom, I believe. But they get massive. They're pretty cool looking. They got all these nice... You get boring ones too. That's like a nice one. But they get huge. Like they grow to like the size of your hand. I've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
So... I've never actually had one myself. I don't know if they're particularly finicky the reason I picked this is because I remember I saw one at a coral show and I just thought to myself, wow, that is amazing. And I've never seen one in the UK before.
I was going to say coral show in the US, presumably.
Yeah.
So the photo I showed, the first photo was from Lazy's Coral House. on Instagram, which is in the States. So I'd never even heard of these, let alone seen them.
We probably get like boring ones where they're just sort of grey or blue or something. That's why we don't. They're probably the same species, but they're not that magic carpet coloured one.
Go nice with your brown goby.
Yeah, true. True.
What? So you've never had one?
I've never had one. I don't know how easy they are, but the thing I find interesting about them is that they are, they're a mushroom, but they're a redactus, which means they're the same as a furry green mushroom. But
is that easy? I don't know mushrooms.
Well, yeah, furry green mushrooms are easy. But what allows one of them to grow absolutely huge in comparison to the other ones that stay small? So are they actually exactly the same species? I mean, or is some scientist girl or nerd going to look at them one day and go, because it happens all the time where corals get reclassified, and I wonder if they'll go, oh yeah, that's actually something slightly different.
Yeah. And some mushrooms are a little bit fiddly, aren't they? There's so I had problems with the recordias. I think they're a bit more fussy than normal bog standard mushrooms, and I'm sure there are other mushrooms I've seen people talking about that are quite. They're just like for no reason. So who knows? But there you go.
It's usually too much light and not enough nutrients is what makes them go. Okay.
I like your impression. Of my impression
of you doing an impression. Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Excellent coral of the week. I like that. It's not. I've never heard of that. Never come across it.
There you go. So that's what this is about. It's about learning. It's about I learn stuff sometimes.
Yeah, every now and then.
Yeah.
There is. So next week is the 29th of December.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I know you're big into Christmas, Ryan. So presumably
Christmas.
you've done a whole Vlogmas series on your channels. Are you still going to be around?
Probably. I am absolutely dying tonight. I started dying after about 20 minutes. So my family's going away. So I did Christmas Day today. So I had a big Christmas event today with all my family and dinner and everything. And then I come back and have done this, which is why I'm so tired today.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure 20 hours will be fine. I doubt I'll be doing anything.
Okay, well, in which case we will probably be back next week.
Yeah.
Although most people will probably be with their families and do other stuff, but you know.
29th. People are fed up of Christmas by then.
100%. I'm already fed up of Christmas. It's not even Christmas yet.
I'm like, I said on the 1st of January, all the decorations have to come down. And Rachel went, that's amazing. I thought they had to come down the day after Christmas.
So, you messed up.
I did. I messed up.
Still.
Well, she's going away though, so they just won't be there when she gets back.
Like it.
So.
All righty. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. Have a very Merry Christmas, and we may see you in a week's time.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.